The morning my wife was supposed to go on a date with her coworker, I was sitting on our living room couch with divorce papers hidden inside my briefcase. She thought I didn't know. She thought I hadn't seen the messages, the lies she'd told about our marriage, the dinner invitation she claimed was a girls' night out. For 3 days, I had been preparing myself for the possibility that my 12-year marriage was over. What I didn't know was that before she could open the front door, everything would change. My name is David. I'm 46 years old. My wife Laura is 40, and we'd been married for 12 years. The strange thing is that before all this happened, I would have told anyone we had a good marriage. Not perfect, just good. We both worked full-time jobs. We had our routines, our favorite restaurants, our weekend grocery trips, and our usual arguments about what movie to watch. Life wasn't exciting anymore, but it was ours. The first time I heard the name Eric, it meant absolutely nothing to me. "He thinks he's funny," Laura said one evening while we were eating dinner. "Is he?" "No," I laughed. She laughed. That should have been the end of it. A few weeks later, she mentioned him again. "My friend Maya thinks Eric has a crush on me." I looked up. "Does he?" Laura shrugged. "Maybe." Then she smiled. Not a suspicious smile, just the smile of someone who had received a compliment. I didn't think much about it. After 12 years of marriage, a little harmless attention didn't seem dangerous. Unfortunately, Maya felt the same way. I met her once at a company gathering. She was loud, recently divorced, and never short on opinions. At one point, I overheard her talking to Laura. "You're married, not dead," Maya joked. "Enjoy the attention." Laura laughed. And that was the problem. Because what started as harmless attention slowly became something else. Over the next month, Eric's name appeared more often. Funny stories, office gossip, small compliments he had given her. Then came the texting. At first it was work-related, then jokes, then daily conversations. One evening her phone buzzed while we were watching television. She looked down, smiled, and quickly turned the phone over. "Who is it?" I asked casually. "Just work." The answer came too fast. For the first time, something felt off. Not because I thought she was cheating, because my wife had never needed to hide who she was talking to. After that, I started noticing things. More messages, more smiles, more mentions of Eric. Then one night I joked about it. "Is Eric the only person in your office?" Laura laughed, then immediately looked embarrassed. And that was when I realized something. Another man was taking up space in my wife's thoughts. I still trusted her, completely. What I didn't know was that somewhere between the compliments and the messages, Laura had started telling Eric things that weren't true. Things about me, things about our marriage. And by the time I discovered those lies, Eric had already asked my wife out to dinner. And she hadn't said no. The first time I realized something was seriously wrong wasn't because of the dinner invitation. It was because of a message. Laura was upstairs getting ready for bed. Her phone was charging on the kitchen counter. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't looking through her phone. I was getting a glass of water when the screen lit up. The message preview appeared for only a few seconds, but it was enough. "You deserve better than feeling ignored." My hand froze. A second message appeared. "I hate hearing how unhappy you are." The screen went dark. I stood there staring at it. Ignored? Unhappy? What exactly had my wife been telling this man? When Laura came downstairs a few minutes later, she smiled at me. The same smile I'd seen for 12 years. And for the first time in our marriage, I wondered if I truly knew what was happening inside her head. Over the next few days, I started paying attention. Not because I wanted to catch her, because I wanted to understand. The messages kept coming, the smiles kept coming, and every time her phone buzzed, she seemed a little happier. Then Wednesday evening arrived, the moment everything changed. Laura was making dinner. Her phone was on the counter. A notification appeared. This time I saw all of it. Friday night. Just you and me. Dinner? I felt my stomach drop. Then another message appeared. You deserve one evening with someone who appreciates you. For several seconds, I simply stared. Not angry. Not yet. Just stunned. Another man was asking my wife on a date, and judging by the tone of the conversation, this wasn't the first inappropriate message. A minute later, Laura walked over. She picked up her phone, read the invitation, and slipped the phone into her pocket. No outrage, no rejection, no mention of it, nothing. That hurt more than the invitation itself, because it told me she wanted to keep the option open. Later that night, she mentioned Friday. Maya and I are meeting for dinner after work. I looked at her. She avoided my eyes. Just a girls' night. The lie came so naturally. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not because she wanted attention, not because another man was interested, because she looked me in the eye and lied. 12 years together, and she chose a lie. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying the messages in my head, the comments about me being distant, the comments about our marriage failing, the invitation, and the lie. By morning, I had made my decision. I called a lawyer. The appointment lasted less than an hour. I didn't ask how marriages could be saved. I didn't ask about counseling. I didn't ask how to win my wife back. I asked for divorce papers. The lawyer explained the process. I listened. When he finished, he asked if I was certain. I thought about Laura. I thought about 12 years together. Then I thought about her sitting across from another man while he listened to stories about how terrible her husband supposedly was. Yes, I said. For now. When I left, the papers were in my briefcase. Prepared. Ready. Not as a threat. Not as leverage. As a decision. The strange thing was that I wasn't angry anymore. I'd already been angry. What remained was disappointment. The woman I loved had spent weeks telling another man our marriage was failing. Then she agreed to meet him for dinner. What exactly was left to fight for? That evening, Laura mentioned Friday again. Maya's looking forward to dinner. I nodded. Have fun. She smiled. And for the first time in 12 years, I looked at my wife and saw someone preparing to leave me. Maybe not physically, maybe not permanently, but emotionally, she was already halfway out the door. By Thursday night, I had accepted it. The marriage was over. I wasn't going to call Eric. I wasn't going to confront Laura. I wasn't going to compete with another man for my own wife. People should stay because they want to, not because they're caught. So I made a plan. I would wait. She would go to dinner. She would come home. And I would place the divorce papers on the table. Then she could decide what kind of future she wanted. The folder stayed inside my briefcase near the front door, waiting, just like I was. Friday morning finally arrived. The day my wife was supposed to go on a date with another man, and the day everything changed. Friday morning arrived. I was sitting on the couch with a newspaper in my hands. I wasn't reading it. My briefcase sat beside me. Inside it were the divorce papers. A few minutes later, Laura came downstairs. She looked beautiful, the same woman I'd loved for 12 years. But the uneasiness was impossible to miss. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept all night. "Morning," she said. "Morning." She picked up her coffee, took a sip, then put it down. Checked her phone, locked it, picked it up again, then put it down. The nervousness filled the room. After a minute, she grabbed her purse. "See you tonight." I nodded. "Have a good day." She walked toward the front door. 1 step, 2, 3. Then she stopped. Her hand rested on the handle. For several seconds, she didn't move. Then she looked back at me. Not casually, really looked at me. "Everything okay?" I asked. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She turned back toward the door. Her hand touched the handle again. Then her shoulders started shaking. A quiet sob escaped. My stomach dropped. "Laura?" She lowered her head. Another sob followed, then another. A second later, she dropped her purse, turned around, and walked straight back toward me. By the time she reached the couch, tears were running down her face. Then she sank to her knees beside me. "I'm sorry." The words barely came out. I stared at her. What happened? For several seconds she couldn't speak. Then everything came pouring out. It started because I liked the attention. She wiped her eyes. And I hate how stupid that sounds. A bitter laugh escaped. Nothing was wrong. I frowned. Laura shook her head. You weren't distant. We weren't unhappy. Our marriage wasn't falling apart. Another tear rolled down her cheek. I just liked the attention. The room went silent. The compliments. The messages. The feeling of being noticed. She looked down. And every time I felt guilty, Maya would tell me it was harmless. Her voice cracked. You're married, not dead. Another tear. Enjoy the attention. Another. It's just texting. She laughed bitterly. It's just flirting. Laura shook her head. And every time she said it, I wanted to believe her. She covered her face for a moment. But the worst part is that I knew she was wrong. The room was silent. I knew it when I replied to the messages. I knew it when I started looking forward to them. I knew it when I lied to him about our marriage. Her shoulders trembled. And I definitely knew it when I lied to you about Friday. I said nothing. There wasn't one big mistake. She looked at me. There were dozens of small ones. Another tear rolled down her cheek. And every step felt wrong. The honesty hurt, because it was real. Laura pointed toward the door. When he asked me to dinner, I told myself it was still harmless. A bitter smile crossed her face. But standing there this morning, she looked at the handle. I finally stopped listening to the excuses. The room went completely still. I stopped listening to Maya. I stopped listening to myself. Her voice broke. And I asked one simple question. What? She looked directly at me. If I have to lie to my husband to do it, why am I doing it? Silence. Tears streamed down her face. And suddenly all those little lies didn't look harmless anymore. She shook her head. I wasn't standing at the door because of Eric. Another tear. I was standing there because for weeks I had been telling myself I was still the same person. Her voice cracked. And I wasn't sure that was true anymore. The room felt heavy. I wasn't scared of meeting him. She looked down. I was scared of the person I was becoming. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she looked at me. 12 years, David. More tears fell. 12 years together. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And I was about to risk all of it. A pause. For attention. The room went silent. Then I quietly said, I know. Laura froze. What? I know. Confusion replaced the guilt. The messages. Her face went pale. The lies. She stopped breathing. The dinner invitation. Laura stared at me. You knew? I nodded. Enough. The shock on her face was overwhelming. How long? Long enough. She covered her mouth. Oh, God. For several seconds she couldn't even look at me. Then she whispered, You watched me do all of this? Yes. Fresh tears filled her eyes. Why didn't you confront me? Why didn't you stop me? I looked at her for several seconds, then answered honestly. Because I don't want someone to stay with me because I forced them to. Her eyes closed. If you wanted another man, yelling wouldn't change that. Her head immediately shook. No. I raised a hand. You asked. She fell silent. I wasn't going to compete with another man for my own wife. The tears returned instantly. I wasn't going to beg. People should stay because they want to stay. And if they don't? I looked away for a second. Then they should leave. The silence that followed felt endless. Then I stood up, walked to my briefcase, and pulled out the folder. The moment Laura saw it, all the color disappeared from her face. "What is that?" I placed it on the coffee table between us. She stared at it, and for the first time that morning, she looked truly terrified. Laura stared at the folder on the coffee table. For several seconds, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she reached for it. Her hands were shaking. The moment she opened it and saw the first page, all the color drained from her face. "No." The word came out as a whisper. She turned another page, then another. Finally, she looked up at me. Divorce papers. Real ones. Not a threat. Not something said during an argument. Real. "You were going to divorce me?" Her voice broke. I looked at her quietly. "They aren't signed." Laura looked down at the papers again, then back at me. "But you were ready." I nodded. "Yes." The answer hit her hard. Fresh tears filled her eyes. For several seconds, she simply stared at the papers. Then she whispered, "I almost lost you." I didn't answer, because she wasn't wrong. The room remained silent. Finally, Laura wiped her eyes. "I don't deserve another chance." I stayed quiet. "But I'm asking for one anyway." There was no excuse in her voice, no attempt to minimize what she'd done, just honesty. "I know trust doesn't come back because I cried." She swallowed hard. "And it doesn't come back because I'm sorry." Another tear rolled down her cheek. "But I am sorry." For the first time that morning, I sat down across from her. Laura looked exhausted, not from lack of sleep, from finally facing the weight of her choices. Then she pulled out her phone. Without saying a word, she opened Eric's contact. She typed for a moment and handed me the phone. The message read, "I lied to you about my marriage. My husband is not distant. My marriage is not failing. I allowed these conversations to continue because I enjoyed the attention, and that was wrong. Please don't contact me again. I wish you well." I handed the phone back. Laura pressed send. A reply appeared almost immediately. She didn't read it. She blocked the number. Then she opened Maya's contact. This time she sat quietly for a long moment. "Maya didn't make my choices," she said softly. "I did." I nodded, because that mattered. Laura started typing. A few moments later she handed me the phone. The message read, "Maya, I need to step away from this friendship for a while. The decisions I made were mine, and I take full responsibility for them. But I also allowed myself to listen to advice that encouraged me to treat something serious like it was harmless. You kept telling me it was just attention, just texting, just flirting. I wanted to believe that because it made me feel less guilty. Today I nearly lost my marriage because of those choices. I don't blame you for what I did. That responsibility belongs to me. But right now I need people in my life who protect my marriage, not people who encourage me to test its boundaries. I wish you well, but I need some distance." Laura pressed send. Then she turned off her phone and placed it on the table. "I don't hate her," she said quietly. "Then why send it?" Laura looked at the divorce papers. "Because some people help you become the person you want to be." A tear rolled down her cheek. "And some people help you justify becoming someone you don't." The room fell silent again. After a few minutes, she looked up. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" She hesitated. "I'd like to take a break from work." I frowned slightly. "A break?" She nodded. "A few weeks, maybe a little longer." She looked around our home. "I think I've spent so much time chasing deadlines, office drama, stress, and other people's opinions that I stopped appreciating what I already had." Her eyes filled with tears again. "I need some distance from all of it." I thought about it for a moment, then nodded. "Okay." Relief washed over her face. Not because everything was fixed, because I hadn't given up. A few moments later, she looked at the papers again. "What happens now?" That was the hardest question of the day, because I didn't have a simple answer. Finally, I answered honestly. I still love you. Laura immediately started crying. But I don't trust you. She nodded. I know. And trust doesn't come back because you're sorry. I know. It doesn't come back because you blocked someone. Another nod. I know. It comes back through time. Laura wiped her eyes. I'll wait. I believed her. For the first time in weeks, I actually believed her. So I reached across the table and closed the folder. Not because everything was okay, not because the damage had disappeared, because I wasn't ready to sign it. The next few months weren't easy. Trust rarely returns in dramatic moments. It returns in ordinary ones. Honest conversations. No more secrets. No more excuses. No more lies. Laura took time away from work. She focused on herself, on us, and on understanding why attention from a stranger had nearly cost her the most important relationship in her life. She never contacted Eric again. She never spoke to Maya again, and she never once asked me to simply forget. Instead, she showed up every day and did the work. Slowly, trust returned. One day at a time. A year later, I found the folder in the back of a drawer. The same folder. The same unsigned papers. Laura saw it in my hands and immediately went silent. I looked down at it, then at her. Neither of us said anything. I opened the folder, pulled out the papers, and tore them in half. Then again, and again, until nothing remained except scraps. Laura's eyes filled with tears, not because she had won, because she understood how close she had come to losing everything. She walked over and wrapped her arms around me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, I'm sorry. The same words she'd spoken on the day she turned away from the door. I kissed the top of her head. I know. And for the first time in a very long time, that was enough. Because sometimes a marriage isn't saved by grand gestures. Sometimes it's saved when a person reaches for the door and chooses to turn around before it's too late. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy stories about marriage, second chances, personal growth, and real-life relationship drama, don't forget to subscribe. Sometimes the strongest relationships aren't the ones that never face temptation. They're the ones where both people choose each other again when it matters most.